Are they gonna fix it?
Was out today working on it, and he told us that it's when they rewired in the
We
back,
good?
something got switched.
Okay, welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of October 1st, 2019. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, citizen statements and petitions.
I just have a quick comment that occurred to me as I came in here. I'm just a little concerned. There's really no parking in this campus for a meeting of this size. I know there was an email that went out a couple weeks ago from a town hall employee. It's during the day too. I don't know if there's any option to figure out an alternative. Often I come here during the day, there's one space open, if that. So I'm just making you aware it might be something that needs to get looked into.
I just don't know where would it.
How far along until, I mean, what's the expected delivery date?
March. So we've talked to Tower about making sure that no one is parking on site. Then we've also talked about the possibility of having staff park off-site and shuttling them in to work from down at the senior center or the highway garage. I mean, just to make more spaces available to the public, because that's really an issue here, not employee spots so much as public access.
Is it, another question, is it gonna, with the delivery of March, is there any anticipation that this section over here will slowly start to become usable as we,
Don't believe so.
or the fence, oh, actually, Don, do you have a quick sec?
Perfect.
Don, do you have a quick sec? Yeah.
Or Dawn.
Definitely not putting you on the spot here, but the question came up again about that we have limited parking due to the construction, right? Is there any potential that as they complete this section over here, fencing will be taken down, or is it going to remain that way until March?
So the cistern, once the cistern's in, they still need to run the lines, the plumbing and everything over to the stations.
So it's gonna come, the piping's gonna come across the...
Well, the cistern there is for the fire suppression, right? So that needs to now be tied in to the station for the sprinkler systems. So they're gonna have to do work through the parking lot. They're gonna put a tie-in potentially for this building in the middle. I can get an update on the schedule and see where that is. Off the top of my head, I don't know if I have the schedule with me. Let me look.
Again, it was more for a generalization, but it looks like it's probably going to get slightly worse and then start to get better.
I don't know about slightly worse.
Well, when the work's happening.
When they're doing, right, we're trying to do as much of those types of things like on Fridays when the town hall is closed, with stuff that we can do. None of the contractors are parking in here. They're parking up the street. So, yeah, I guess, I mean, we've been allowing people to park along the fence.
Got it.
But,
the trades are here, I see them. Obviously, they can't park their trucks. They generally need their trucks.
well, when they, right, and then they can stay, right, so they're coming and going all the time, right.
I get it. All right,
So let me look at the schedule, figure out when at least, the problem is they still need to keep the site secure. I mean, we've got to keep it locked and gated.
I mean, that's why I think the only reasonable alternative is employee parking off-site, because they have to be here for their actual tools and their trucks, and residents need to have access. So if employees are here all day, then we have to work out a schedule in which we can have them park somewhere and get them over here.
The only other thing I can
Frees
think
up way
of
more space.
is if we could somehow just have this fence go just around the cistern and go behind the police station, so allow some parking sort of between the cistern and the existing station. We could possibly do that. We'd have to change the fencing.
Right.
Anything would be helpful, I guess.
Okay.
Just maybe run it by them to see if there's anything they can do, or even if it's, an extra 3 weeks and then all of a sudden they don't even need anything around the cistern because it's covered and we're done. Maybe we can get even more.
Will do.
Thank you. Approval of meeting minutes.
So meeting minutes for approval of this agenda item was passed. So We'll approve meeting minutes for 7:15, 8:06, and 9:10.
Second. All in favor? Okay, we're gonna jump to number 7, Stormwater Management Yearly Update.
Thank you so much.
How are you?
Hal and I were here, do you mind if I just jump in? My name's Gabrielle Belfit, and I've been working with Al on the stormwater management program for quite a number of years. We were here a year ago, prior to submitting Mendon's permit to EPA and Mass DEP, and the purpose of our coming tonight is just to fill you in on what transpired during permit year 1, some of those major accomplishments, and what we're intending to do in permit year 2. What you have in front of you is 2 handouts. There's a schedule for the first 5 years, well, the 5 years of the permit. It's a 5-year permit. And you can see all of the requirements were met in permit year 1. And then permit year 2, there's several highlighted orange boxes, which are the brand new permit requirements that we'll have to undertake. So just 3 notable events occurred. The EPA issued authorization to Mendon in May of this year. The town finalized their stormwater management plan and it's posted on the town's website at the end of June. And then, as I mentioned, we've been working to complete those permit year 1 requirements. So notable accomplishments were establishing a publication, a public education and outreach page. So we did 2 things. We created a survey for residents to take that's posted up on the town's website. We've had pretty small returns on that survey, so we're really hoping to come up with some strategies to call attention to the public education information that's up on the town website. We've also got quite a lot of information up there, and if you can think of any ways, maybe we can put something on the main page of Mendon's main web page to lead them to the stormwater information. That would be great. The second major accomplishment was creating an illicit discharge detection and elimination plan and training staff with a goal of making sure no illicit discharges were getting into Mendon's surface water via the municipal stormwater system. So staff have been trained to recognize illicit discharge, and they follow written procedures if any is detected and how to eliminate it. That training also included ways to protect staff themselves if they're responding to any type of oil spills or similar substances. We ranked 207 outfalls in Mendon from low to high for risk from illicit discharges, and thankfully there's very few high-risk outfalls. We updated the Mendon Highway Department Spill Prevention Countermeasure Control Plan and provided staff training on that. I mentioned we posted the Stormwater Management Plan online, and that's a really great source of information and a way to really understand not only what the permit requirements are, but what particular department is responsible for each of the 6 minimum control measures. You have a handout there that explains those 6 minimum control measures in some detail for additional reading. Real quick, an annual report was prepared and submitted to EPA and Mass DEP yesterday. I have a couple extra copies of that report if anyone is interested. We're going to be posting that. Dan is going to help post that up on the town's website by the end of the week, but I do have 2 extra copies here if you would like to see them.
Great.
So our next steps is working with Al to draft how we're going to approach doing permit year 2 requirements, which is finalizing the town-wide facility inventory and developing written procedures for operation and maintenance with a focus on activities that have high pollution potential. The town does need to update its bylaw for post-construction stormwater runoff, addressing new and redevelopment, and really streamlining procedures for site plan review, submission of as-built drawings and construction projects. So that is something that principal planner from my office will work with the planning board specifically to do that. We are going to have to work with Al to implement better tracking procedures for inspection of outfall catch basins and town-owned stormwater treatment structures. And the biggest hurdle, which is going to take several years to develop, is a phosphorus control plan for the town of Mendon. This is a requirement that we were hoping we could get out of, but EPA let us know it's not only Mendon discharging to the Charles River watershed, but also the Blackstone discharges to Rhode Island, and downstream waters are impaired there for phosphorus, even though they're not impaired here in Mendon.
So we don't have the Blackstone River that goes through Mendon, but we have
Tributaries that drain to it.
So that's what's key about that.
Yeah.
The only, we were discussing this, the only thing that's probably in our favor is that any of the town-owned fields, to my knowledge, we are not fertilizing. I don't believe we fertilize. So that is a benefit. That is a key benefit to us as part of a control measure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, so we're a little bit ahead of the game in that aspect for it, but some of these other things where we need to work on, you know, like especially the townwide facility inventory and written procedures for who does the maintenance and takes care of them.
Yep.
Which we're gonna work on it. So.
Yep, so that's it in a nutshell. If there's any questions, the plan's going to be up on the website, and we are required really to come once a year to report on the permit, but I think we'd like to switch it around and maybe next year report at a planning board meeting or a conscom meeting. So unless you really, really want me to come every year, we can let you know of that happening. So it seems like people who are actually, in the trenches with implementation might benefit from the discussion better.
Sure.
Because it's not just, as I mentioned before, it's not just highway that it's planning, conservation, building, police, and fire that are involved in this.
Yeah, and they're all serving on the task force. Any takers for a copy of the report? Yeah, would you both like one?
Sure.
Thank you. Any
All right.
questions? Sorry.
Nope. Thank you so much.
You okay?
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
You made Al look great.
Quickly do 4A, which is Trees for Hope.
This is for Channel T. So, Trees of Hope Nonprofit Committee would like to request permission to place signs around Mendon to advertise our event, the Trees for Hope Festival. The event is being held at St. Gabriel's Parish in Upton on Saturday, December 7th and Sunday, December 8th. Specifics about the sign. They want to put them at North and Milford, Millville and Route 16, Providence Road and Hartford Ave.
Second. All in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Okay, we have the public hearing. Lonnie, want to open that? It's 5.
Jump to number 5?
Yep.
Oh. So I move to open the public hearing for the Verizon Cable license renewal.
Second discussion, I have a notice I have to read. Town Amendment Board of Selectmen public hearing regarding the renewal of the cable television license of Verizon New England Incorporated, October 1st, 2019. Outline for public hearing process and proposed motion for vote. Introduction by the chairman of the board. Public hearing is regarding the renewal of the cable television license of Verizon New England Incorporated, Comcast Cable Communications Management LLC, formerly Comcast of Massachusetts Incorporated. The current Verizon cable license was granted by the Board of Selectmen on May 4th, 2009. This hearing is being held consistent with the regulations of Massachusetts Cable Division. Public notice of this hearing was published in accordance with the regulations of the Massachusetts Cable Division in the Milford Daily News on September 17th and the 24th. The hearing notices are part of the record of this hearing. Okay. Oh, all in favor for?
Aye.
Aye.
Good evening.
Good evening.
William Solomon, your cable counsel. It's good to be back here. And I apologize, the problem with the computer is the reference to Comcast in what you read, which I had prepared, is incorrect. It's just Verizon in New England, and that was a remainder, but that's why we're here today. So William Solomon, Special Cable Counsel. I wanted to, if I could introduce John Harrington. John Harrington is the counsel for Verizon New England, who's representing Verizon in the Mendon renewal, and he may have a few words after we get started. If you'd like, I can go over a summary of the license quickly, or if you read everything, we'd be set.
I'm fine.
I'm pretty comfortable.
Okay, it's a public hearing, but first I thought maybe we'd ask John if he'd like to say a few words on behalf of Verizon.
Sure.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Selectmen. My name is John Harrington, outside counsel to Verizon. We've negotiated with the town to enter into a 5-year renewal with financial terms that were acceptable to the town. We look forward to offering a high-definition channel, which is new for the local origination broadcast. And the negotiations went well. We're happy to be here.
Great, we're in high def, can't wait.
And I just want to, again, also thank John for his working closely with myself and the town to get to this agreement. It's an area that's a changing field and changes in law and approaches, and Attorney Harrington and Verizon were very cooperative, and while protecting their interest in understanding that the town had a strong interest here and wasn't looking to reinvent the wheel, but rather do a fair license consistent with recent licenses, and I thank John and Verizon for that. Of course, it's a public hearing, and you want to hear from the public, and if there are any questions that have come up, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions? Nope.
Or any comments from the public?
Comments? Nope.
Hey.
Oh, wait, you have one.
Oh, way in the back. Pat. No.
No. No, so what we're talking about is the contract with the town and Verizon for them to be able to provide the Verizon Fios services to the people in the town for, and either you can get Comcast or you can get Fios. So it has nothing to do with the equipment that's in the building.
Yeah, although it's said that, as you know, as stated, there will be, after a written notice from the town in 270 days, the opportunity to have high definition, as you acknowledged, for one PEG access channel. That can be an existing PEG access channel, or that can be a new PEG access channel. You also have the right to have an additional standard definition access channel. And this license, as Attorney Harrington said, has both operating funding and capital funding, which the town in wisdom can provide in part or whole to the Access Corporation. I know that it's a strong PEG access program. The PEG access director, Pat, of Bellingham Mendon Access, was going to be here, but when I indicated that at this point we were done with the licensing, and it was only reason to be here. If there was a question or a particular point that needed to be made, he felt that he'd let you get on with the business. But that said, that there is good funding here for access and community television going forward.
Dan?
I think I asked this before, this license is relative to television, not internet.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, that's correct. It only relates to cable television.
Okay. That's it.
So, I have a quick question. So then, is the internet service just a part of the package that you purchase?
It can be, but this agreement only relates to cable
It
TV.
regulates the television part
Right.
portion of it. I understand.
Right.
Okay.
Right, based on the federal law, yes.
I understand.
So there's a motion on the second page of that highlighted form.
We're gonna move to close the hearing first, or we vote first?
Well,
So I move to close the public hearing regarding the
Second.
Verizon cable contract.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I hereby move that the Board of Selectmen, as cable television licensing issuing authority, vote as follows: to grant the subject cable television renewal license to Verizon New England Incorporated with an effective date of October 1st, 2019, for a term of 5 years. All terms and conditions contained in the renewal license have been agreed to by Verizon.
Second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank
Great.
you.
And as indicated, Verizon has agreed to this, and they will be signing both originals, which Attorney Harrington will take with him and provide one original back to the town. And finally, I wanted to thank both your town administrator, Kim, and Laura for their help and cooperation and coordination throughout the process, and I appreciate that.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming down. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, you're gonna jump back to 4 to consider location change of special license for Socktoberfest on the 5th of October. Wanna come up?
How's everything?
Hi.
Good, good.
So we're changing the location to Clough.
Yes, due to the critical level of the EEE, we're taking the recommendations of the state's Board of Health as well as working with the Parks Department, trying to monitor the situation, and unfortunately, it looks like the ban isn't going to be lifted. So we worked with the superintendent of schools. We've spoken with the chief about, moving to Clough, and it seems like logistically it will work. It's a safe venue. It meets our space needs, and we feel it makes the most sense for everyone to not be put at risk for EEE.
Makes sense.
Might be less mud, too?
Yep, just a little bit, just a little.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Right. Hey,
So we said, we've had every possible weather situation, so why not have
Right.
the mosquitoes
I know,
come
it
too?
might be, I don't know, it might be different.
Yeah, add it, yeah, we'll just add it.
I'm totally loving the location. I don't think I just walk across the
You
street.
want across the street. So, yeah, so it's just a move of location with our existing liquor license. Insurance has been changed as well, so we've pretty much covered all bases.
That's this Saturday?
Correct.
Great.
I move to amend the previously approved special license for wines and malt beverages only approved on 7/15/19 to the new location of Clough Elementary School, 10 North Ave.
Second. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Appreciate that.
See you Saturday.
Thank you.
Okay. Consider street name for Applewood subdivision.
Can you sign? Thank you. I'm sorry.
What number is that? Sorry, I'm lost.
Number 8. There's no motion. Who's here for that? You know?
Bob Poxon was supposed to come and discuss?
Well, we can table it until he arrives.
Okay.
Okay. Next is consider appointment of Diane Howell for the Council on Aging.
Could I
Absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, true. Me.
It's fine.
Good evening.
Hello, how are you? Yeah, I might as well bring both up. Jennifer Talamini.
The September 11th, Council on Aging monthly meeting, after a regular meeting, the council opened up their annual election of officers, and I'd like to present to you, Board of Selectmen members, I'd like to present Earl Perlman and Peg Noguera, their co-chairman of the Mendon Council on Aging.
Great.
And they also, the council also discussed these two fine women as expressing interest in joining our board, and unanimously voted to recommend them to you.
Excellent. So maybe each of you just briefly why you are interested in serving on the council?
I've lived in Mendon for 11 years now. I retired a year and a half ago, and I just want to keep busy, and I think I have a lot of good input to help these seniors that need help and things like that, and some ideas. I enjoy working with them. I started the walking group in town, and I'm involved in a lot of different things, programs down at the center, and I just enjoy it.
Excellent.
Thank
Thanks.
So I have my background professionally working with senior adults. I am in the occupational therapy field by training, and I currently work as a director of community relations in a senior living community in Franklin. So for me, I think it's important to be able to be an advocate, a voice, and a resource for a population that could definitely use some more attention and support.
Excellent. Thank you both. I think I was able to speak with Peg about the candidates at the Senior of the Year event, and was pleased with what she had to say. So.
Well, we were thankful for your appearance too. I mean, the speeches were just wonderful. I mean, he's a wonderful guy. He was also selected unanimously too, hands
Great.
down.
That's excellent.
I move to appoint Diane Howell and Jennifer Talamini to the Council of Aging for terms to expire June 30th, 2022.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Okay. We're skipping 11. Review STM.
Okay. As
We're at
you
12.
know, and everyone must know at this point, the deadline for submitting articles is Thursday. So this is our first pass at what has been submitted as articles to be considered for the Board of Selectmen to put onto the warrant. Right now, we have 28 possible articles, if you so choose. We have a number of people, groups here tonight to speak to the articles that they have submitted. So I will go through them, and then I will bring them up if you have additional questions.
Okay.
We're gonna go as fast as we can.
Sounds good.
Okay. Much like prior years, this is the jinx. Article 1 is bills of a prior year, in which we have a trash bill, like we always do, and we have a bill for water. Article 2 is if we want to transfer money.
$95.
Transfer money.
Is that correct?
Into stabilization. Article 3 is if we want to transfer money into CapEx. Article 4 is if we want to transfer money into OPEB. Article 5 is an article that addresses the current situation with the mosquito problem. So there was conversations during this past couple of months about our non-participation in the program. So meeting with the Board of Health, and they are here tonight, we've talked about putting the topic before the taxpayers again at town meeting to see if they are interested in revisiting this. There is a company that will come out and do a full presentation of what their service provides, but we figured we'd see if you were interested in doing that first before we took that step. They are here to speak in support or not for doing this, if you want to have them come up.
I got a quick question on it, so yeah, if you guys wanna come up. I don't wanna delay us straight through this.
They're here for this.
Yeah, right.
Right.
It's probably more of a question for the folks that are coming to give the presentation. But just is there any towns in our area that do the spraying that also, that didn't have to get sprayed by the overhead spraying when the planes flew over? Or, so every town that was in that pattern already opted out of?
They're either part of it or they're not. So, but everybody in the area got sprayed.
No, I think I missed my point. The question is there anybody, so say Mendon had opted in before, we still would have gotten sprayed in the overhead spray, right?
Yes.
So it's not that, and I guess the other follow-up question, is there any towns that opted in, did any of those test positive for Triple E, even though they?
Quite a few.
Yep.
So quite a few tested positive, so they're already doing the 52,000 a year spray.
Yes.
They did still get caught, there was still Triple E in the town, and they still got overhead spray.
Yes.
Yes.
Could I read you a quick statement,
Yeah.
short statement?
Go ahead.
It's brief. Membership, they call it the CMMCP, it's the Central Mass Mosquito Control Project, that's the abbreviation they use. Membership offers residents access to a full program of mosquito control. CMMCP has made great strides over the years to reduce the dependency on spraying by placing greater emphasis on larval control, public education, ditch maintenance, and source reduction. Spraying is done only after request by a property owner. If mosquito-borne viruses are identified, spraying is done if local and state officials are consulted and deem it. It has been determined that spraying is an appropriate response. Residents may exclude their property from any part of the program at any time. They're big on the vernal pools and the ditch maintenance on the side of the roads. It's not all about spraying. It's about capturing and killing the larvae before they hatch and before they become airborne, which is, it's quite a process. And Tim Deschamps is available to come to your next meeting. He works for the Mosquito Control Project.
I think he came the last time.
He did.
I remember him
He
at
did.
the special town meeting, I think it was, right?
Yeah, in 2013.
Yeah, oh wow, was that long ago already?
Pardon?
Was that long ago?
Yeah. So I just want to get that out there, that it's not, everybody says mosquito control, oh, we're going to get sprayed again. It's not all spraying.
I understand. Again, I don't know if it's right or wrong, and I'm not here to advocate for it or for or against it. I'm just asking for my own personal knowledge, that if we're gonna spend this kind of money, but yet these other towns are doing it and they still found Triple E in town.
Right, if
We're
we're gonna spend
I feel like we're all just in the
52,000
same boat.
and other towns are paying 50, or whatever they're paying to be in the program, and they're still experiencing critical levels of Triple E, what?
I think it just warrants a little bit more conversation maybe between us. You know?
I have two maps if you'd like to have them to look. One is, these are the towns that are in the program, and these are the towns that were critical.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
Do you want, are you all
Is that
set?
your only copy?
Can we maybe get a,
Why?
is it possible to maybe get a copy of this to the town crier, just so that, that's something you'd want to use, even electronically or something? All right, great, thanks.
Okay.
Great, thanks. I don't have any other questions. So, no. So,
I'm fine, unless you have more to add.
Just simply, like Ms. Newman alluded to, we'd like to see if there is interest. The Board of Selectmen did support it in 2013. We went as a joint venture at town meeting. Do you guys feel that we should bring it forward to the town again?
I would want to just defer to the next meeting. I need to think about it a little bit more, and I want to do a little bit more research before I make a final decision.
And at that meeting, Mr. Deschamps can join us.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
That'd be good.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks.
Okay?
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay. Moving right along.
I'll look at it.
No, that's, yeah.
So, Article 6 is a topic that we've talked about for a number of years in terms of the amount of liability we have in vacation time for certain departments and employees. Right now, the estimated amount of the value of the vacation time that we have for the members of the fire department is around $72,000 if all of them were to go tomorrow and take their time. So if funding is available and free cash is certified in a way that we had access to funding, it certainly would be worth looking at investing and paying off this liability now, because it will only increase over time as wage rates increase. So it's something that we need to keep in the back of our mind as something we need to pay off sooner than later, so when funding comes available.
Do we know what the annual creep is on it?
Well, just assume that it's at least.
Well, what would it be at 100%? Sorry? Like if nobody took the time?
When you mean annual creep, are you talking about increased hours?
No, just the increase to that 72K.
That would be whatever the wage rates go up.
Whatever the wage rate increases. So assume whatever it is right now is as low as it's gonna be right now.
No, I understand, but does it creep up by $5,000 a year or $10,000 a year?
Well, just looking at, I think the contracts for most of the unions are 2% a year, so take 2% of that number.
Okay.
Roughly would be the increase each year.
Okay, so I'm just saying that if we paid off half of it.
Right.
I'm just saying that if we paid off half and it jumped right back to 72 the following year is kind of my
Correct.
question. So,
right.
So it's a 2% increase. It's based on whatever the COLA is, will increase by that amount.
Right, and we also have negotiated in, this is more for discussion later.
Fair enough,
But
that's fine.
just in concept, that's what this is.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Article 7 is exactly as it reads, which is potentially we're gonna need funding for a settlement, and so we will know sooner to that date. If so, we'll have to bring it to town meeting for approval. Right now, it's not public. Article 8, turnout gear.
Sorry, I don't have the list.
No.
What is Article 8?
It's turnout gear.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the town had appropriated money prior to my arrival here, which allowed the purchase for, I believe it was 10 people. In last year's expense money, I was able to get a few more out of that. But I have one current on-call member, one person will be graduating the end of October. I have another one that's looking to come on the department. So I'm needing about $15,000 to purchase new gear for those newer members. And that's a structural gear. There really isn't any brush gear on the department. There's a few codes here and there. And it would be roughly $15,000 for brush gear to outfit 20 members of the department.
Great, thank you.
So you might as well stay.
Yeah, we got another one, revolving account.
Okay, for the revolving account on the cisterns. The planning board in subdivisions have been requiring developers to put cisterns in for many years here in town. And I took the opportunity a few months ago to really go through those requirements for two reasons. One, to make sure that they were fair, but two, we have so many cisterns in town now and they're going to start needing maintenance, and some of them will not operate necessarily properly because of the way that they were installed. And I was looking for a way to try and generate a maintenance stream of money so that the town has money to maintain the cisterns that are in place. So we modified the regulations a little bit to make them more appropriate for space in cisterns. Real quick, Pond Street, there's 16 houses, there's 3 cisterns on that house for 16 houses, just because of the old regulations. We modified it to be more distance related so that that cistern is within so many feet of houses. But as part of essentially reducing a little bit of the burden on the developers, we'd be looking for a $5,000 deposit into a maintenance account solely for cisterns. And we need a revolving account in order to hold that money and to spend it for use on cisterns or related equipment.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then 10 is just the limit.
Thanks.
Sounds good.
10?
That It's just the limit on the.
Right.
Oh, okay.
11 is the usual CPC money into buckets article. 12, we're probably gonna pass over. This was an article that I was gonna put on in order to get the town hall painted and potentially whatever campus landscape things that we need, but I think it can probably wait till May, based upon what I'm hearing about the police station.
Okay.
13 is the pilot agreement that we met with Blue Wave to talk about last meeting.
Okay.
14 is approved tobacco bylaw regulations for the sale of tobacco products.
This is for, I don't know if you know, Governor Baker already put a ban on the sales of all those tobacco products. So, but this is a backup for us. It's going to basically regulate how the retailers sell, who they sell to, and making sure they're posting all the regulated laws and everything associated with this, and also giving us the power to fine anybody who violates the ordinance. So it's basically just to control vaping, which the governor, and I think everybody knows, Governor Patrick put a 90-day hold on all sales anyways.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't know where the state's gonna go with it, but I still would do this in case the state goes the other way and allows it again. We probably want some protection for the minors in our town, to make sure, they're not selling to minors, and we can enforce that.
Can you send, do you have the language that you could send, or is it not ready yet?
The actual
bylaw change, or?
I think it would just say, except the following, I think I gave you guys a 3-page ordinance that we copied from another town.
Okay.
So it would be just to put that into an ordinance. I don't know if you'd put like section, I can talk to the bylaw committee.
Do we not have one now?
No, we have nothing on vaping and e-cigarettes and that whole entire.
We have it on regular tobacco products?
I'm not even sure we have a regular.
Well, Board of Health regulates, I think they increased the age to 21 at one time, but now
Yep.
the whole state is.
Yeah, this would make vaping strictly 21 also.
Right.
So.
I'm just wondering, do we need a whole new section in the bylaws, or do we just adjust the Board of Health regulation that we have?
Have to find out if.
Yeah, I'll call them.
Potentially.
Call them. Is anybody here from the Board of Health?
I was just gonna ask the same question. Maybe this is something they could just pass a regulation and not bring it all into a meeting.
No, this has to go to town meeting. I actually talked to town council about it. We can't just make this a bylaw or make a regulation. This actually has to become a bylaw for the enforcement part of it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll leave it on, get the,
Yeah,
get the wording.
And I pretty much copied, I think it was Blackstone's verbatim. Blackstone did it and went through their annual, so I just
Okay.
copied theirs to make it easy and changed everything to Mendon. To make it a little bit easier.
I just didn't want to be
Yeah.
redundant if we don't.
No, I agree with you
I
completely,
understand.
but I think they're attacking this kind of separate, just like they attack marijuana issues separately and regular smoking separately. Because they're all looked at separately too.
All right, thanks.
No problem.
Okay, 15, 16, 17, Ellen, yes.
All right, 16 and 17 you got, and we went over last meeting.
Yep.
With the animal control and the fees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 15 is just accepting an MGL that would, in essence, allow the town to treat deadlines treat Saturdays as a holiday as far as deadlines go for me. So if there's a registration deadline or something that occurs on a Saturday, if we pass this bylaw, I can now move it to Friday, thus not having to come in on the weekends.
Oh, I see.
And it would also serve for other departments too, not just town clerk.
Can you move it to Monday, or does it have to be the day before?
It depends on what the deadline is.
Okay.
Some will move to Monday, some will move to Friday.
Okay. Thank you.
Sounds
And
good.
the other ones, do you have any questions on, we did those,
We talked about those
we talked
last
about
time.
those.
The fee increases, right? in
The
the
fee,
business?
well, yeah, to remove the fees out of the bylaw,
Yep.
and the second one is the actual bylaw wording change. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Article 18, designating Washington Street as a scenic road.
Surprised it's not already.
Okay. So those are all the ones that were submitted before today. So then we have Article 19, which is Land Use Committee, and then 20 is Land Use Committee. So Ann, you should come up, CPA, 22.
Hello.
Hi. So the 15 Inman Hill Road lot should be sold before the next town meeting, and then we'll have the money from it. And the town, the proceeds will be $125,000. And we've spent maybe $2,000 in legal fees and engineering. It's been mostly just volunteer. And so I'd like to set the money aside so it just doesn't get absorbed into the budget. And some of that money I'd like to have put in the Mendon Land Bank. And then I just suggested that maybe the rest could go to CapEx funds or stabilization.
I'm happy with that idea.
My only concern about this, and I have voiced it before, well, I have a couple of concerns, but my first concern is that technically this money doesn't get recognized until next fiscal year. So.
Well, that's not true. From what I talked to Eric today, he said as soon as it's sold, the money goes in a special account that's immediately available.
If you create a special account. If you create a special account. Unanticipated revenue of any project like this would fall into the general fund, and it would fall to free cash at the end of the fiscal year. So I'm not.
Want me to read it to you? So
yes.
We're all on the same page?
Yes, I would.
It says, the funds would be available in the sale of real estate fund pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 63, Mass General Law. This could then be appropriated at a town meeting once received. So he said that, he cites the section, he said that if the property was acquired through tax title, it goes to free cash, but if it's purchased land and then sold, it goes into a special account.
But does it have to go into a special account?
It says, shall be applied to the payment of the indebtedness incurred in acquiring such real estate.
Either way, let's assume my
all the
only
wording
issue.
says shall.
Right. So my main concern with not knowing what's going to be certified at free cash is that we have only $220,000 in CapEx, and we only have 800 and change in stabilization, which potentially could get hit from some things that are on this list. I am reluctant to fund anything else at this time with money that's coming in, especially if they don't need it right now. That being said, I think the work that they did is a lot on this project. They should definitely get credit and something from it. I would tread lightly right in this minute about how much and when.
We don't have to determine that right now.
Right, we don't. But those are my main concerns. If free cash comes in certified and it's high and it.
First of all, let's clarify that situation.
Okay.
And once we have that answer, we can figure out before the town meeting, or the day before the town meeting, we can figure out how the numbers are gonna distribute out. So I would say that we just work on it that way, right?
Okay. So you get that information in November about free cash?
Yeah, so we should have that very soon. The question is about whether or not we're gonna have to set up a special account in order to put the proceeds in, which I think we'd have to do at town meeting, which is like a special article, or if we would just allocate money to the land bank now, some portion of it from free cash, and give that to them for the sale, and then next year when it rolls through, it just rolls through to free cash. So there's two different ways. So.
Or it goes on the next special town meeting for next year when it's free cash is certified,
right.
And pull it out of that.
But assuming they need it for projects or something sooner than that. There's multiple ways.
How much money's in the land bank now?
It's like $9,000. It's not a lot, and it's.
I understand.
Yeah, and it's a nice account to have because it's less restrictive than the community preservation money,
right.
So you can use it for more things. And
okay. So put that on the
warrant.
Okay. The next one is to increase the number of land use committee members from 5 to 7, and it's in the bylaw that there's 5 members, but 7 members would be helpful just for getting a quorum, and then also, like last year, I had said maybe we could try to form an energy and sustainability committee, but it's just hard to start another committee, get new people, and so I thought it might be better just to add some more people so that the work, like with the green communities and energy, you know, we'd have extra people.
So that, instead of creating subcommittees, you're more or less gonna add more load to the land use committee, or more?
It's really what we're doing already,
Okay.
but it would just be more people. And I think there's several people that would be interested in being on it, so I don't think it would be hard to fill the committee. So.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. And the next one is. And town council will let us know if that's worded correctly, right?
Right, we're gonna, all of this is just draft. So once we get through tonight and then we put a document together, it goes to council, all of the language will be reviewed for motions. So this is the additional portion payment for CPA's portion of the police station.
Okay.
22.
That's, the historical commission just needs boxes and sleeves to put old documents in and organize them. And that'll be like $300. And there's one other item that's not on here, because I think Thursday's the deadline for Handyman. And from the planning board, there's changes to the zoning bylaws for low-impact development, so that if you could put a placeholder on there for that. And that's the result of 2 grants that we've gotten with technical assistance and a lot of cleaning up of the zoning bylaws and the subdivision regulations so they coordinate and also include the low-impact development. Yeah.
We'll have them come for next meeting.
Okay.
Assuming that we get it.
When is your next meeting?
The 15th.
Right.
Thank you.
Article 23 is $300 for the historic fund. They don't have a budget to cover the cost of postage and printing for public hearings for the new demolition applications.
Okay.
24 is a request to have boards and committees required meetings taped.
What is, how is that a warrant article? What does that do? Like, is it gonna be a bylaw to say that it's required?
I would imagine so. So you can ask Tom to come up. This is currently submitted by citizen.
Hello.
Hi. So is that bylaw?
Yes.
Okay.
And, you know, the way I wrote it was so that it wouldn't take effect until February 1, 2020. Gives us time to come up with a sort of strategy of implementing it. I know there's a lot of people in town who would like to see this made a requirement in the interest of transparency and better governance for the town.
Why, is there an issue with transparency and governance in the town right now?
Well, I think it just improves on the transparency.
Is there a problem with transparency now?
You'd have to ask people in town. I know a lot of people want to see this changed.
A lot, how many?
Well, I have almost 100 signatures.
Again, I think we're all in agreement that this needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we don't have a plan to do it. This is premature to do it, and it's going to cost money. We're already sitting here talking about how we're already low in finances, and we have no idea really what it's going to cost. So we're saying that we're going to give 2 months, 3 months to push this through, and then we're going to be at a point where only 1 meeting room can be used for meetings for the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, Board of Health, Zoning Board, Planning Board, and the Conservation.
Well, we already do have the technology to do it in this room. I know there's plans to do it in other rooms as well. Again, this is giving...
With no plan or idea of what it's going to cost us. What if we can't afford it until January of next year, or until the next annual budget? for that entire time, we're gonna force this through because it's of the utmost importance that we're gonna use the petition process to do it if we don't agree to put this on, right? Because it has to be done now. It can't have a plan that we can put together in budget. I'm just very confused on why this has to happen today.
I think because you're starting with a certain boards, and then you can expand it to the rest later. I think it's...
Okay, but with no plan and no idea.
Well, we're giving till February 2020. That's giving quite a bit of time.
Yeah, but it really should be based, if anything, it should be based on budget year. I mean, it's hard to, especially if for some reason the system is going to cost $20,000 or even a few thousand. How are we supposed to come up with the money? And then we're going to be violating the, I don't know, I just think...
Would you be open to putting it on for July 1, 2020?
I would be open to putting it on once we have the plan and the finances to do it. Or even after it's actually been built in, then we should be able to create the law and say, look, okay, now we have the ability to do it in 3 places in town. We planned for it correctly. We're ready to go. Now that it's ready, then ask that we change the bylaw to put all of these committees under the scrutiny of
or not a bylaw. So,
or even if it's a policy that
right.
doesn't even
Which is
require
what
a
I
bylaw.
thought we were talking about last meeting.
right. My concern, we are all about transparency. I've been working on this for a while. We have added even last meeting we talked about different ways in which we could start to implement this now, which is send an easy email to boards asking them to the best of their ability to schedule their meetings in this room, and I've already met with Amy to talk about scheduling volunteer seniors on different days of the week so that we can get as many meetings as we can televised. I don't know how in February, so first thing, me personally, though I don't really have a say, July makes way more sense to me for planning purposes, just in general. February makes me nervous because that's right in the middle of when we're doing the budget and trying to go live, and all of that stuff just makes me nervous on time there. I'd rather have it planned into a budget, but, and I think we can accomplish some of this very easily just by asking boards. I'm worried about the requirement to boards and having people volunteer for these boards without knowing, and sort of, they've never done it before. So that's just, the time frame makes me nervous, that's all. We can certainly draft a policy. The board themselves can certainly require, without going to town meeting, that these boards be televised. That's something within your authority to do. But we are gonna need another space. I mean, the reason that we had trouble when we got here and had to build additional spaces is because we had people meeting downstairs in that office. So we have a better space.
We need at least 3 locations that...
I think next door is gonna be ideal, but we're gonna have to pay. And which is fine, again, and I've been talking to other towns about how they've afforded to pay for these sort of system upgrades, and I know a couple of the ways that they've done it. I just don't think we'll have it in time for this. That's my concern. And I want to be able to go to these boards too and explain what's about to happen.
Ellen?
I don't think the February 1st date is a good date, because if this is a bylaw change, if that's what you went through with, I have to submit that to the Attorney General. They have up to 90 days, which is beyond the February 1st. So the February 1st date shouldn't be in there if it is a bylaw change. It should be maybe next fiscal year or whatever. But we wouldn't be able to meet that because they typically take up to the 90 days to approve the bylaw wording. And then, because it would be a general bylaw, it becomes effective on that date. Or a couple days later, really.
Yeah, I would be much more agreeable to it being a policy than a bylaw. I mean, what are the ramifications if it's not adhered to? I mean,
Nothing. I mean, which is the other part. I mean, if it's a procedure from the direction of the board and it's a committee that's appointed, then actually a committee. A board that's elected, do we even have the tears to say to even tell them they have to televise their meetings? we can. I mean, the board can set parameters over their meeting spaces.
Gotcha.
I mean, but that's why I think you're talking about,
Well, I think that one of the reasons I think that it should be done this way is because you don't have any jurisdiction over the elected boards, really.
okay, but to Lonnie's point a minute ago, let's say they don't do it. Who is enforcing the actual thing? It's the Board of Selectmen who are enforcing. Let's just say, use the planning board as an example. Let's say the planning board can't have their meeting over here because there's a conflict, so they have to have a public hearing. Now they have to have it next door, and there's no equipment over there, where they have to have a hearing, or and they don't do it, or they repeatedly decide not to do it. What is the consequence? Besides the board publicly saying, hey, planning board, you need to come back and meet in this meeting room.
I think if you have a bylaw in effect, you're opening yourself to litigation lawsuits because you're not obeying your own bylaw.
Yeah, I would
pass this on to town council because you're gonna open yourself up to
Right.
litigation. Then I just have one more thing. Don and I were just talking quick with the building committee for the police station. We had the Comcast building that we wanted to move over there. We started back in March to get that building torn down to move the equipment over here. There were 3 racks, literally 3 little racks. They didn't have to set up anything new. They just had to move it from that building to in here. It took them until August to even do that for us. We had to call them weekly and daily almost just to get that moved because they were holding up our project. And if we didn't get lawyers involved, they wouldn't even move that equipment. They didn't set anything up new. They literally just moved equipment. Getting Comcast or Verizon or National Grid to move at any rate of speed is next to impossible.
Okay.
You know, they've paved streets around poles because they won't come on move poles. So I mean, we're completely reliant. I would almost say you need to get a plan with Verizon and Comcast and figure out what their timetable would be to do this. Because you may not even be able to meet the timetable, never mind the cost.
I agree with all of that. I do. I just think to actually achieve this goal, to actually get this to happen, the way to do it is to work with these boards, not to force it on them. By going there, explaining why, and then helping them set up their calendars and working with their admins and say all of that. That's the way. Doing something like this is gonna, it seems to be creating more problems.
Understood.
Though I want it. I should make that clear. I
Dan?
want these meetings televised.
So I guess 2 questions. First, is there money in the cable license for
So,
infrastructure stuff?
I was gonna talk about that. That is but I don't really wanna get into it too much in detail, but that is one of the ways in which one of our neighbors funds this actual project, but without having settled both agreements yet, I don't wanna talk about the terms of the capital and those contracts.
And then the other is maybe it's worth forming some sort of a study group to come up with a game plan with a target date to push this through and
I think
maybe have representatives from these boards.
I agree, because I don't,
Sometimes these things kind of,
Right.
there's so much going on.
okay.
Kathy?
I just wanted to make a comment about, I don't believe that this is so much riding on transparency is accessibility of information. Asking people to show up at meetings at 7 o'clock, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, when big decisions are being made about the land around them, about policies, about, I think it's very difficult in this day and age to keep up with that. So I think it's important to make sure that people have access to information.
I would agree that I think that, in my mind, recording meetings, because minutes are not always readily available right after meetings, and some people want to be able to see and hear verbatim what has happened at meetings. And the only committee or board that you can do that is with us. And so I think that, to me, is one of the top reasons why most of these should be recorded.
Yeah, just the other thing to add would be, I think this is what the town administrator was referring to. I know at least one of our neighboring towns has a cable company broadcast and tape and do all that. You don't get volunteers or anything, so I guess that's something you can look at.
Right, they pay, technically, they use the funds that they get from capital, from their cable contracts, to pay for the hourly rate for the person who records the meetings and then uploads them or whatever.
Upton?
It's Blackstone, which is something that we can do, but we've never looked at hiring a person to do any of that. Right now, where it's been, that's what I'm saying.
And I believe also, and in Blackstone, if I'm correct, they have some pretty decent equipment
Right.
when it comes to recording. They're not burning DVDs and then having to get them uploaded and depending on Cable 8. They've got in-house equipment. I happen to do the IT down there, so I kind of work closely with this guy. And he does all the cutting, everything right there.
Right.
And so they have the expensive equipment. Again, I think we need that stuff to be able to make this efficient as well. Because we also need people that, if we don't have somebody that works for us doing it, right now we rely on volunteers. So we're gonna need more volunteers for all those meetings. And I know we talked about teaching, again, can we force them to run their own equipment when they need to watch? Like, that's something that we don't know. So again, I think we're just not ready to force this yet.
I just think the previous speaker about get a few people together, we can go find out what would it cost if we wanted to put it as part of the contract.
Right.
In addition to that, we are putting another meeting room right next door.
Right.
With new technology, so perhaps by next spring we'll have a better idea. Maybe we have some funds to upgrade the equipment. I think we're all for this. It's just a matter of coming up with a plan and making it work. So maybe we can leverage it as part of the, technology going in next door in that meeting room as well. So that we can have two on this campus that have that capability.
That's a great
But
idea.
it won't be by February.
I think you might be right.
I think the new Board of Selectmen's meeting room is going to be in that building.
Okay, so we gotta,
Next.
not to rush you.
No?
So, okay.
Uh,
Next,
I
go
think
ahead, Tom.
Next one's mine as well, so. So I also am proposing changing the makeup of the Board of Selectmen from a 3-member board to a 5-member board. 52% of the towns in Mass that are our size have a 5-member board. No, earlier this year there was a resignation that made it difficult to meet because of some other issues, and that's happened in the past. Plus, as of right now, if 2 members meet for coffee and the word Mendon comes up, that's technically against the law. I think it's good to have the possibility for offline conversations.
You still can't have offline conversations.
But
it's
it's
against
not-
open meeting law, even with 5 members. Because that means I could then just call, if there's 2 more added to this board, then I can still call Lonnie, still call Chris, and then I can call each member. It's not a way around.
But you're
open
going to have to post a meeting for casual conversation, I guess.
But, okay. In the previous article, you spoke about transparency. And in this one, you immediately talk about removing transparency.
I don't think that
we
going
can-
to a
that we can
5-member
have
board is
offline
removing.
conversations as member of the Board of Selectmen to talk about town business without being at a town meeting defeats the entire purpose of the meeting, of us being here in front of you. The fact that we can barely find 3 members to get on board, right, is an issue that now if we add 2 more seats, we're inviting no more debate about people that may want to run for a seat. We're opening up to 5 seats to just people to just walk on. So now you have 3 people running for 3 open seats per se, right? You have those 3 people sitting there not debating at all, just talking about what they want to do. And if you don't like what 2 of them have to say, those 2 people are going to walk right on because there's nobody running against them. We can't even get people to run for the 3 that we have, and we want to add 2 more.
Generally do have contested races, but like I said, most towns our size in Mass do have a 5-member board. You're allowing more viewpoints onto the board. Also, you don't know, there might be people who are daunted by someone who's a well-established name in town that might be more willing to run if there are more seats available.
So again, a walk-on.
It's not a walk-on.
It is a walk-on if there's nobody running for it. Again, I feel that this is just, again, another...
You still have to get voted in.
All you need is 1 vote.
Right, but I'm again okay, so this is my 6th year here, so I've seen quite a few elections. Most of them are uncontested.
We
So-
usually have contested elections.
They've been mostly uncontested when we've had single seats run in the last couple of years. I've worked for towns that have 5, I've worked for towns that have 6, and towns that have 9, and now 3. I think there is a value to having additional voices on the board, but from where I sit, I would encourage people who are interested in those voices to run for the Board of Selectmen, because that hasn't been occurring in the 6 years that I've been here. And this, they can't say it, but I will say it's a thankless job that most people barely survive 3 years doing. Why you would ever come back and do it again? I mean, you have to have a real love of public service to put this time in for this job. It's not. So I'm concerned in the same way that they're concerned that opening it up now might not be the ideal time, because it's scary. No one is running anyway. I just don't see the need for it.
The fact that people should run against each other is the real reason that we do this. Oh, I've been on both sides. I haven't run against anyone, and I've run against people. The best part about it was when I was running against people, because there was actual debate. You actually had people listening. You had people coming to candidates night. There was a room full of people at candidates night, because there was contested races for planning board, and there was contested races for the Board of Selectmen, for highway department even, and that we were able to sit there and now people were listening to what we were saying, and you can get the full benefit of where the town's headed, or where the townspeople want to go by who is elected. To have just walk-on seats, even now, I didn't want to run against, it made it easier, and I wanted to win, but at the same time, to just have walk-on seats, I think is a silly idea.
Well, if you can't run against someone and go through a debate with someone and have an election that's contested, you really shouldn't sit here, because that's what we do here. We debate topics. There's contested issues in the community. People come up here. You have to be able to have that.
But we're not talking about making uncontested seats. We're talking about making more seats.
No, but you said people are afraid of, because there's
I'm
someone
saying
that's
you
on the board.
might have more people run.
Hold on. You're saying that people are in the community are afraid to run for a seat because it's someone who's maybe well known. But that's not a reason to, if that's your reason why you're not running, then you shouldn't be here, because that's not good enough. Because if you have good ideas and you put the work in and you go around the community and the people like you, they'll vote for you, not just because someone has a popular name or what have you.
Right, and most of the candidates have come up through other boards.
Right.
So that's the other, this isn't as if it's just people who have name recognition in the community. These have been people who have served on other boards and commissions for a while and then have decided to move up onto the Board of Selectmen and run for a seat. Now, because they get elected and they have votes, I mean, I assume it's because they've put the time in, right?
Right.
So,
but I'm merely saying if you have more seats, I think you have more people running. As has been in the case in other towns that as
yes, you're going to get more people to run for the open seats. They don't have to run against anybody. You're not going to create contested elections by adding more seats. We create contested elections by somebody not doing a good job, or by an open seat coming up and multiple people want the seat. I just totally disagree with making this board 5. I don't see how it benefits in any way.
well, I think it should be up to the people of town to decide that.
Absolutely.
There you go.
So
I don't want it on the warrant. If you have the petition, if you have the signatures on the petition, then bring it forward.
Yeah, I don't think it's we should be doing that anyway.
right, I just want to add from a workload perspective, 3 or 5 makes very little difference for what we do internally here. That doesn't make any difference administratively to how we would function and do anything. So it's not a workload issue. So when they're talking about this and people are deciding which position they want to support, having had both, there's not much of a difference to have 2 additional members in workload. I just want to make that, because sometimes people say you don't want it because it's more people. It's not. It's actually less because it becomes more, more debate, more. I should say, more conflict typically among the 5 members than work that's getting done.
So I mean, that being said, you're saying that, say that again?
So typically what happens when you have more members on a board, you have more disagreements among the members on the
So
board.
there's just
And so
more-
the topics become more political and less actually policy and work-based.
Oh, good, so.
It's not
one
about
more- One more
workload.
reason to
So
bog
I
down meetings. and-
wasn't saying it for that reason, but I'm just saying
I
it
understand.
becomes more discussion-based than actually task-based.
Can I ask a question? I'm curious. What would happen, so there are two of you there right now. What would happen if two of the three members became incapacitated? How would the town run? I'm just curious.
There is language in Mass General Law that identifies the process there. I actually did look that up when we had the resignation. I don't recall exactly what it was, but there is a laid out process. Do you remember?
So it actually happened when I was appointed back in '97. The day after, myself and 3 other people appointed, the whole board quit. So never mind 2. We had no board of selectmen the very next day. They all quit or resigned. And what they had to do was do a special emergency through the state, and they actually made some of the town employees temporary selectmen for a period of time, and then had a special election to reappoint the 3 positions. So I don't know if that's the only time it's ever happened. It ended up literally they all resigned the next day for some reason. Something political was going on. They were upset, and that's when we went from part-time to full-time police department. Everybody quit. So even if you have 5, you have that instance that happened, you still have 3 that quit. You're still in the same instance. And you literally can have some political turmoil happen, and the next day wake up and not have board of selectmen. The town still runs.
Probably ran better.
Okay, just the
26, is that
repeal
you,
of the
Tom?
farm tax.
Farm tax?
So I'm actually questioning, because I saw this was going on, questioning why this is here.
Only because it was brought when you came to a meeting before, we talked about the repeal of it, so we've added everything that was discussed.
Right, well, but, so, when we discussed it before, I thought that this had to be done through a ballot process.
It's probably true.
Which I'm definitely for repealing this.
Perfect. That's on the table. One less article. Got it.
Well, but so the discussion was that the language had to be voted on in a selectmen's meeting to put it on the next ballot. And I just sent an email, just keeping it on your radar.
Okay, great. So
Sorry, which one are we talking about?
we're talking about the farm tax. We're gonna come up with language and then put it on a ballot, so May is the.
Oh, okay, so it's not gonna be on here. We're saying to take it off. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would, if we could, I would say do it, but I think it has to be done through a ballot.
We keep a running list all the way through, and we try to remember everything that comes through, so that's
Maybe
good.
check with town council, but I think that's the,
Okay.
what it has to be done. I have one more on here.
Okay.
Do you mind if we talk about that really quick?
Go ahead.
So actually, this is, I think it has to be done through 2. I sent both of them. The language is very similar, but it's just to change the name of Board of Selectmen to Select Board. 70 other towns in Mass have done it. We've had women members of your board before. I think it's just a more gender-neutral, reflective term. Doesn't change any of the functions. It's just, yes, it's just changing the name. And like I said, 70 towns have done it. I think that it's going to be a much more common thing, and I feel Mendon can be ahead of the curve.
Personally, I think it should be a petition article. I just think if people want to do it, then it should come as a petition.
I got nothing on it. I spoke my piece about it the last one.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a no. Okay.
All right.
This is Kathy?
I'm just curious to know why you wouldn't consider something like that. You know, why it has to be driven by a petition. In this day and age, adjusting language to kind of. It's not really a controversial issue, it just is,
Well, I mean, if we're gonna use the analogy that 70 other towns have done it, how many towns are in Massachusetts?
351.
351 minus 70 haven't done it, so that's why. I just, again, I don't see, like, if there's not even controversy about it, there's no discussion about it, it just came out of nowhere to change the name. Again, it's not a hill I want to die on, so I don't care which way it goes. It doesn't matter to me what the name of the board is. It doesn't.
Which is why I said, if it's a petition thing, fine.
I don't feel like we need to change it, but I also, at the end of the day, don't care what the name of the board is.
I also don't think it should become a politicized issue. If this is something that people want to see changed, it doesn't need for the board to decide. If that is the case and people want this, then which I assume they are doing and working on, then it's gonna get changed, right?
You can put it out to, just say one more thing. You'd just be putting it out to the people to decide at town meeting now, not making a decision whether you want it or not. This is just to give it to the people to decide.
Right, but if we put it on as the Board of Selectmen, we now have to speak to it.
They do.
Right.
Fair enough.
I mean, I would rather that you're.
If there's someone that's
bringing it
passionate about it, and there's enough people in the community that want to address it, then it should come as a petition. If the board isn't willing to gung-ho go for it, I mean, it's just something I think that it's a specialized issue that should come from a group of citizens that find it to be important.
Oh, fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, 27, wild or exotic animals traveling, animal acts for public entertainment or amusement.
Hi, how are you?
I was here in March and requested this bylaw prohibiting the display and performance of wild animals in traveling animal acts. I don't know if you need me to go through a lot of the arguments why this is the right thing to do. Again, maybe Mark remembers.
We've gone through this a couple times, right?
I mean, mostly, right, what the board needs to know about is not the reasons why, but what is the actual change that is being brought to the town for them to decide upon, right? So, and if they're going to be including it on the warrant, and then once we're at town meeting, then you can detail in any form the support for the article.
Well, I have a sample bylaw, which is very detailed about what animals would not be allowed to come into town. There's all kinds of scientific evidence and, you know, it's just the way, the trend now in the world, basically, that these animals are being treated humanely. They're subjected to long and exhausting periods of transport. They're confined. They're chained. In some cases, they're beaten in order to make them perform the way they're supposed to perform. Also, they can pose a danger to the public. You know, there have been many instances of elephants and camels and other animals running amok. There's a danger of disease. And I just think in Mendon, that, you know, to be frank, there's this circus that's brought to town for years and years with wild animal acts. There's no reason for wild animals to be brought into Mendon or anywhere, but until we get more broad agreement on this statewide, there are bills in the legislature right now to prevent these things coming into the state. There's a TSPA bill in the United States Senate and House that's going to be hopefully voted on next year to prevent this kind of treatment of animals throughout the country. So that would be the ideal situation. But until then, towns have to step up. You know, you take it one step at a time. There are 10 towns now in Massachusetts that ban these traveling animal acts. Topsfield is the latest one.
Really?
So now the Topsfield Fair, just in May, they banned elephants and camels at the Topsfield Fair. It was voted on at their town meeting. A majority of about 600 residents voted for the ban to prevent the cruel and inhumane treatment of the animals and preserve and protect the general safety, welfare, and health of the public. This ban is immediate and will end the popular elephant and camel rides that have been a staple of the fall fair for decades. Now, the fair will go on. The fair will be fine. This doesn't prohibit, like, farm animals, your typical horse. So
Does this affect the zoo in any?
No, it's just traveling animal acts that are, they're carted all over the state, all over the country. They're supposedly regulated by the Animal Welfare Act, but it's basically unenforceable.
So I didn't attend past couple circuses that came through town, but I feel like I noticed that there was a lot less animals this last time.
What I know is it was the Zerbini Family Circus the last 2 years in Mendon. They feature camel acts. They have bison and alligators. All I know is we drove by and we saw camels that were chained, in an enclosure up on North Avenue at the corner there. That particular circus has been cited numerous times for officially and anecdotally for the cruel and inhumane treatment of these camels. They're put on short tethers. They can't even lift their heads. They're not in shaded areas. Even they have dog acts also.
Yeah, I did notice a lot of dogs. It's like a new environment.
Yeah, and just an anecdotal thing. A woman posted something on YouTube. She said she had to leave the circus because she was so upset by what she saw, and she saw a truck full of cages with dogs in these cages. This is in July in the heat. There's just, it's hard to argue that there's no way that there's a humane circus.
So I read the sample ordinance you sent, and there was language that said that no camel rides would be allowed in the town. So
traveling.
It didn't specify that in the bylaw, in the sample.
Could I maybe, I don't know if this is the right thing to do. Can we have council work with us to get this bylaw right so that we don't?
Well, there's no right. So the question is about what you would allow to be in it or not, which is really up. The bylaw itself is written fine, it's drafted fine, it's a usable bylaw. The question is about the restrictions that are in that bylaw. Are you comfortable with those? What we could do in the second time tonight is leave it on and then get the bylaw over. I know Marcus we talked about the camel part before, and concerns about that. And maybe you could come back next meeting, right? If you're considering leaving it on the warrant, but you need a little bit more time.
Yeah, again, I would just like, the opinion of council again, and make sure, again, I understand that the bylaw is for traveling, but, some things get weird sometimes when we get into the legalese of stuff that I don't want anything affected at the zoo.
You're concerned about the zoo, I guess. Is that
That's my concern.
part of the issue? Yeah.
So if we leave it on and we put the ordinance in, it will get sent to council with the rest of the items and the language that are on the warrant. And then you can, if there's specific changes that you're interested in, we could amend it next meeting on the 15th.
Right. Okay. Does that sound good?
So
it'll be on the agenda, on the warrant for the town meeting.
Okay, so what do I need to do?
Can you do you have a Word copy that's not PDF?
of the,
No, like on your computer.
yes.
Yeah, so send me the Word
The
copy.
bylaw.
Yeah, so I can send it to council, so that
Okay.
they can track in the edits. And then, I think I know which section there's a change already that they, and then
Okay,
we can work for next.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
That's it, right?
Is that it?
You gotta go in executive session?
28.
Where am I here?
I move to
I have to
enter.
make them, well, I guess, who's the chair? I don't even know.
I moved to enter, I don't know. Does the chair do it? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Chair,
but
you're
I mean,
right.
neither
I'm
one
sorry.
of us are really the
Go
chair.
ahead. Yeah, right, go ahead.
I move to enter into executive session under purpose 2 and purpose 3 of Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A23, to conduct non-union personnel contract negotiations, police chief negotiations, and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, Mendon Fire. Reconvene only to adjourn. Roll call vote is needed.
Second.